Hello there, and in this video I'm going to take my £500 XC90 out for its first proper drive since passing its MOT. I'll talk to you about what's coming next, and I thought I'd bring you along the way as well with the camera just in case any calamity occurs, because unfortunately the gearbox did misbehave on this on the way back from the MOT. Basically got home, put it in reverse, and yeah, it decided not to reverse, which is a little bit concerning, though it did do it on the second time of asking. Anyway, first things first, see if it even starts. And also make sure I'm not going to get a copyright strike on the stereo. Doesn't look like it's on. Well, it starts, so that's promising. Right, I'll get myself comfortable and then we'll get moving. Right, well, I've got drive, so that's promising. Is it going to move forwards? Yes. Right, off we go. Like I say, first proper drive since the MOT, so it'll be interesting to see how it feels. I have to say, I've gotten very used to the XC60, which is very tight, and P2s feel baggy anyway, but this thing feels absolutely, positively lumberous compared to the XC60. The XC60 is quite it's quite a serious drive, really. It's very focused. This is not that at all in any way, shape or form. Okay, a can of Bulldog BDX rattling back there. Yeah, so I just need to, like I say, put some miles on it, try and get used to it again, get used to the feel of a P2 again. And I also want to run the brakes in a bit because it's basically been sitting since September. All I've done is idle it on the drive and do nothing else with it, which naturally hasn't done it much good, I don't think, unfortunately. It's nice to be in it, but also, admittedly, quite strange. This certainly drives more like an old school off-roader. Probably not helped by the fact that it's done 176,000 miles on original suspension components. Now, speaking of those suspension components, probably worth talking through where we are post-MOT. Now, the two remaining advisory items on this car were the rearmost engine mount, which I'm going to do something about soon, but also the state of these front shock absorbers. Now, they're not leaking or anything like that, but the casing is, or the casings rather, are quite corroded. So I probably will get those replaced in the not too distant future. I imagine it will also help with the way that it drives as well. But yeah, he was just concerned that that they looked quite corroded, and to be fair, I have seen high mileage P2s where the cups actually collapsed and come down. So yeah, it's definitely something I need to sort of look at on this. In terms of the engine mounts, the main issue is the rear one. XC90s have a slightly unusual engine mount arrangement for a front wheel drive car. Normally you have effectively two main mounts, one that usually sits on the bulkhead on the driver's side, and then one that sits sort of near one of the chassis rails on the passenger side. XC90 is a bit different. Effectively the main mounts are front to back, and then you have a little sort of mount that sits under the pulley on one side, and then a couple of torque mounts. Yeah, they're all knackered basically. So I've already got the parts and I'll be fitting those basically as the next job. And then finally, the last thing I'm going to be doing with it, really to protect my investment more than anything else, is I can't find anything at all in the service history to suggest that this vehicle's had a cam belt recently. So what I've done is I've bought myself an INA Schaeffler cam belt kit and an ASIN water pump, basically the original components. I've also bought an INA tensioner and belt set as well, and I will do the whole lot. I'm probably going to bat my eyelids at Sean over at Morsels and Motors to see if he will kindly help me do that, as he helped me do it on the V70 a couple of years ago. But yeah, so there's plenty still to do to it, and then outside of that, I think it might help to look at the injectors. I do think the injectors on this might be a tiny bit noisy. Oh, and I need to service the gearbox, 100%. 100% need to service the gearbox. But we'll see if we detect anything else during this drive today. does feel a little bit anemic compared to the XC60. I think this is 163 brake horsepower, whereas the XC60 is 230. You can have these earlier versions of these engines tuned. Obviously, I don't know if this engine's in the finest flush of health either. It probably isn't at this mileage. I probably want to clear the EGR valve as well. I've still got a bit of pulsing under braking, so I think I'm going to have to look at whatever's causing that. I'm going to do a short 70 mile an hour stretch in a minute, so we'll see what it does there. Yeah, it does have, one thing it does suffer from at times is a hesitation, which can be a real problem at busy roundabouts. I don't know if that's down to the box or whether that's down to something else, but it is a little bit of a concern. And like I say, that's one of the reasons I want to clean the EGR out. But the other thing that could be causing the hesitation problem is that I believe if the vacuum mounts are bad on these, they can cause the turbo not to actuate correctly. Seems to be running quite smooth though. Definitely feels tighter on the new wishbones, I think. I can feel that rumbling. Oh, I can feel it being grabbed by the wind as well. That's weird. It is quite slab-sided, this. And like I say, it is just an enormous yolloping beast. I'm wondering if I'm getting a tiny bit of torque converter slip there, you know. Although that said, it's not fully warmed up yet, so... So the other reason I wanted to take this out today was, obviously I've got the engine mounts and the other parts to put on it, but I don't want to overcommit myself if I find out that it's in some way massively unviable in a way that I didn't realise. Oh yes, yeah, still need to look at those brakes. They're bent at right angles, they are. I was hoping the wishbone change would cure that, but no, they're... yeah, look at that. It's not good, is it? Perhaps not helped by the fact that it has sat for quite some time. Yeah. At least it's no longer pulling under braking like it did before. That's because I replaced the wishbones and that rear bush. What I will probably do with this later on, maybe tonight or during the week, is I will drive it on my, what I call my evaluation route, but I'll do that late at night. I have a route that I take local to me, every vehicle I own, put it through the same paces, and it just gives me a chance to check the baseline on them and make sure I'm happy. Yeah, there's a bit of a... And again, I wasn't going to know this until I'd changed the wishbones, but there's still a bit of deadness in the centre of the steering as well, which makes me wonder whether or not the steering rack's probably not in the finest of fettle either. Okay, I'm starting to feel a little bit more used to it now. P2s do drive differently. I mean, even the estates, by their nature, are a bit yollopy. It's why they make quite good long-distance cars, because there's nothing about the chassis that in any way encourages you to drive quickly, really. Yeah, there's definitely pulsing under braking. So I think discs and pads, I suspect, would probably cure that. Although, again, I just want to check everything else before I start throwing too much money at it. Because it would be very easy to. Yeah, feels like that. Those front brakes are basically bent at right angles. Right, okay, here's where I've got to be careful. So this is where, like I say, if something just suddenly emerges on the roundabout, this can just flounder and not go anywhere. The other thing I'm going to do when I get to my destination, which isn't that far away to be honest with you, is I'm probably going to check all the levels. It's quite hard for me to do that at home because my driveway's in no way flat, but I want to check the gearbox oil level and the oil level. Can you guess where I'm going yet? Where do you think I'm going? Where can I be most often found at a weekend? Yeah, when you press the throttle in it, it doesn't so much go faster as it just makes more noise. I'm not actually going any faster. I think I gained about 2 miles an hour then. So it's just Yeah, these things are not quick, not even slightly. I must say it rides quite well. It's always a surprise for me, given that how horrible the shock absorbers look. One of the problems I have been having with it is getting moisture inside. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the dashboard, but Leanne at Whiteland Restorations very kindly recommended one of those little moisture absorption packs. My dot has gone red, which means that it does need replenishing. I've also got mould inside the carpets at the moment, and again, I don't think it's helped that this thing's sat around since September outside on my driveway. So yeah, I really do need to go through this. I will wet back the entire interior when the weather is a little bit better, but obviously at the moment we're not exactly in the most ideal of conditions. And the last thing I want to do is introduce more moisture into a car that's already suffering from moisture in the interior. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. This bit of road here is just awful. I really do wish they'd do something about this. Definitely got what sounds to me like ticky injectors. I need to go through the entire car properly. I just haven't done. It didn't help that when I first got it, to be honest with you, I wasn't very well. It was a very strange thing. Got this project, was dead excited about it, and then July was kind of a write-off for me. Then September came around and I bought the XC90 back, which obviously became a huge distraction. And then I started spending money on that, as I'm inclined to do. And then it was winter, and yeah, obviously the kicker of the MOT fail for this, with the headlights being wrong. Oh, incidentally, that should be out now, by the way. Obviously, I replaced the headlights on this. They were quite a bargain. I really didn't want to buy another pair of headlights where I was going to have to sand them back and restore them like I did on the V70, and I was finding really tatty used ones for about 60-70 quid online. So to be able to get them pair combined for 200 quid, and they're both relatively new units, as showed you by the date codes that are on them, was really, really a good result. I'm very, very, very pleased with that. At some point, by the way, I will sit down and work out what this £500 XC90 has cost me. You know, obviously that one thing that all car enthusiasts should never, ever do under any circumstances. But it's fair to say that this project makes zero financial sense. I'm certainly not making any money on it at all on YouTube, so don't get that idea even for a fraction of a second. And I've really only done it, A, to scratch my XC90 itch, and I've done it in a way that otherwise has been quite cheap to do it that, to be honest with you. And I'm going to get a little bit of 5-cylinder symphony, if it'll go. Clag. Euro 3 diesel. And because it was such an early one, I think that was the other reason I wanted to do it, because it was such an early one. I have never seen, I saw one at a show and I thought it was another 52 plate, but it was a private plate. It wasn't a 52 plate XC90. I was most upset. I've never seen another one this early. I will hopefully take it to the TMS, it's not at Hinckley this time, it's at Leicester Heritage Meet, the Volvo Heritage Meet soon. And when I do, I might ask them to run the details of this through the computer, because I would like to know how early on in the UK registrations this car is, because it must be really, really early. I mean, even the ones that you used to see on Top Gear were 53 plates, the demo's there. So, yeah, I am sort of, I'm glad I've saved it. How long I'm going to keep it for, I don't know. Like I say, I'm going to do the cam belt and the engine mounts because they're an absolute must and need to be done. And then outside of that, just make sure, yeah, nice and straight under braking now. And then outside of that, once that's done, I don't know, it might be time for another project. Because the trouble is, this and the XC60, ooh, no, that's not holding. Parking brake's not doing much there. This and the XC60 really kind of do the same job. And it might be nice to put something smaller on the fleet. Quite like the idea of having maybe a Volvo C30 again. Because I borrowed a 1.6 litre diesel with the devilish DV6 engine a couple of years ago, and I really liked that, thoroughly enjoyed it. A really sweet thing to drive. So yeah, that might be what happens with this, we'll see. But yeah, I'm enjoying driving it. I must admit, with its little reverse blip, it's been living in my head, that has, even though it's been only for a few days. And it may still misbehave, you know what I mean? I might get back later and it misbehaves, we'll have to see. It's far from a perfect car, but at least it's a roadworthy one. I'm probably not going to go too mad cosmetically, to be honest with you. It'll get a detail and a machine polish, obviously, and I need to see if I can get rid of that glue on the doors, but yeah. Wrapping it, doing silly things to it, putting a horrible body kit on it and dreadful wheels, these are things you're not going to see on my channel. In case you haven't guessed, by the way, I'm on my way to the garden centre. Kerry's covering today, so it's key lime pie, which is probably what I'm going to have for breakfast, because that's exactly what you need for breakfast. Yeah, I think steering rack, maybe even, well, track rods probably, maybe even steering rack. I do suspect the track rod on that side, so I may still have a go at replacing that. But I can wait until the weather's a bit better. It's February, it's cold, and you know, I was watching Matt Furious Driving do some bits recently, and I just went, yeah, no thank you. That is why I saved a load of videos for that I filmed last summer and put them out over the last few weeks so that I didn't have to do anything. It probably means there aren't going to be that many videos, I think, between March and May, but that's okay, I can live with that. But yeah, I'll probably do the same this year, so don't be surprised if there's a little bit of a dip when many other people are releasing stuff, because well, I'm a bugger for videoing stuff and they're not editing it. Probably take me forever to edit this one, to be honest with you. Another thing I'm probably not going to do very much of this year, by the way, folks, is show reports, because nobody watches them, unfortunately. And they take time to do, and perhaps more importantly, they take my enjoyment out of the show when I'm doing them. So, yeah, it pains me to say that I'm not going to do any more of those, but I think at the moment, given the view counts, it just doesn't warrant the effort that's being put into them. So probably no more show reports this year. Some people have suggested it's because I need to talk over them. I've tried, and again, I've still not put the Citroen one out. I will do at some point, but I find it very hard. And the only other thing is, there are people out there that just do it so much better than I can do it. So why duplicate somebody else's work when I can, you know, do a questionable job of my own rubbish? Right, I'm going to check all the levels and then we will go from there. The cheap £500 XC90 lives.
You sorted it then?
Well, it didn't go in reverse when I got it home after the MOT, which was nice. So let's hope it reverses out the car park. Let's hope it reverses out the car. I was about to say, let's hope it reverses out this car park in a bit. Let's see if I actually get a reverse gear, shall we? It reverses. Well, that's a relief. Right, anyway, I've made it to my destination. I'm now going to nip into the cafe and have something to eat. Thank you very much for watching. Please do consider subscribing before you go, and no doubt you'll see some more videos on this car in the future. Cheerio!